Hello everyone. In the last video, we have discussed about the exception handling in Java using the try, catch, finally blocks, and we have discussed about checked and unchecked exceptions, right? You can watch that video if you have not watched it yet. Okay, so that was an introduction to it, and we discussed and we got deep dive into it in the last video. In this one, we will see the how to create the custom exceptions, and we will see the difference between the throw and throws keyword. So these are the main thing that we will be focusing on. So first thing is, why do we need to create custom exceptions? So this is the first question. Need for the custom exception arises from the need to create or need to define for a particular business use case. Okay, so suppose we are having a business application in which we have a lots of data of customers or list of customers. So what can we do? We have a ID and we are trying to find if in the list a customer exists or not by that ID or name. So if we get that, we fetch the data and do the business logic with it. But what if we don't get the data? Or what if a customer with a particular name or ID don't exist? So in that case, we need a exception like customer not found exception, right? Or customer does not exist exception, something like that. Now these are unchecked exceptions, okay, which can only be detected in runtime. So this is one thing. And next is, these types of exceptions are not provided by the Java library. So we need to create the exception of our own. We will now see how to create our own custom exceptions. Now before going into that, we will also look into what is the difference between the throw and throws keyword. Now there are two keywords which is used in the while we are having the we are doing exception handling. Okay, one is throw keyword, another is throws keyword. So let's see into it. So this is what the two keyword are, throw and throws. Both are basically a bit confusing, but these are very important when we are doing exception handling or when we are writing the business logic which can have an exception. Let's see what the difference are. First difference is, a throw keyword is used to throw an exception explicitly in the code inside the function or the block of the code. Okay, so if you are writing a particular code or you are writing a method, then there you can use this throw keyword to throw an instance of an exception. Okay, a particular exception you can throw, whereas the throws keyword is used in the method signature to declare an exception which might be thrown by the function while the execution of the code. So this throws keyword is used along with the method. Whenever you are declaring or the method, at that time you can use the throws keyword. Next is, we can only propagate unchecked exception using throw keyword. So if you want to propagate the exception or want to handle it, then you should consider a runtime exception when you are using throw keyword, because all the checked exception we can handle it on our own. Only the unchecked exception we need to throw. And using the throws keyword, we can declare both checked and unchecked exceptions. The throws keyword can be used to propagate checked exceptions only. So whenever we are throwing checked exceptions, okay, in the method signature, we can only handle checked exceptions. So those exceptions are only propagated. We will discuss what this means by this propagating the checked exceptions, propagating the unchecked exception. We will see with example. We are just discussing the basic idea of what is the difference between throw and throws keyword. The throw keyword is followed by an instance of an exception to be thrown. So we have to define one instance, okay? Whereas the throws keyword is followed by the class names of the exception to be thrown. So here we have to write the class names, whereas using the throw keyword, we have to provide an instance. And the final difference is, we are allowed to throw only one exception at a time. That is, we cannot throw multiple exceptions. So in a method, you can only throw, or in a particular block of code, for that particular block of code, you can only throw or one exception instance at a time. You cannot throw multiple exceptions. Whereas we can declare multiple exceptions using throws keyword that can be thrown by the method. Okay. So basically what it means that throws is used with the method signature, and it is used to signify that to the developers that, okay, this method may possibly throw these exceptions. So you can write your code according and do the exception handling according. Whereas throws keyword will throw only one exception, and that will be a runtime exception. That can also be handled using the exception handling that we have discussed using try catch. Okay, So now let's write some code and discuss how can we do that. So before that, we will create a simple class customer as we have defined. Okay, and in the customer class we will simply have a private static final and a string array. Okay, I'll define a string array where we have a customer names. So customer name, I'll take a just a generalized name like customer 1, customer 2 and customer 3. So these are the customers we have put it, and we will create a simple public string and get customer. Getter we will use to get all the customers, so return customers. Now we will define a method which will search for the customer. Okay, so we will say private, and we will have this static method. It will return a customer if the customer is found there, and we will say find customer. Okay, find a single customer, right? And we'll provide a customer name also, that check whether a customer with this customer name exists in this array. So basically this customer class, this whole thing is acting as a data source. You can have a data source as SQL database, or a NoSQL database can act as a data source for you, or any data stream can also act as a data source for you. So we have created a class which is acting as a data source for us. First we will get all the, so first we will call this method, right? So let's make this also as a static so that it will be easy to call. So we'll write customers equal to customer dot get customers. So we have got all the customers now, and then we will apply a for loop. Here what we will write is string s in a customers, and simply will say if name dot equals s. If we get a customer, then we simply print the customer and we return done, and we return it. Else what we can do is we can throw a exception. Now we can, I told you that we can use a throw keyword inside the method. Okay, as you've seen, throw keyword is used to throw an exception explicitly in the code or inside the function, means inside the method. In Java it can be a method, so let's change it to method. Okay, inside the method or block of code. So here if you see, we can throw an exception, but we have to throw an instance of a exception. So we can say customer not found exception, and we can write a message like customer not exists. Perfect. But this is a custom exception that we have created. Okay, we are throwing, so we need to create it. So to create an exception, we create a class first. We need to create a custom exception class. Then we need to extend this class with runtime exception. So runtime exception. Then we need to create a public constructor. So customer not found, and pass a string message and call the parent class constructor. So we will just pass message here. Now if you go to the runtime exception documentation, here you will see that it has a constructor of the same signature, right? We are calling this constructor, so it takes a string message. So same thing we are also doing. Perfect. And now the error is gone, we are throwing an exception. So if we try to call the method, we say find s out, and then we say find customer, and if we say cust1. Now this cust1 currently exists here, so we should print it and get it. Okay, so we are printing it also, and we are getting that also. Or better, we can say customer exist. And now let's run the program. So it says customer exists, customer 1, and it gives the name of the customer. But what if we pass customer 10? So this customer does not exist. Let's see what it will give us. So it is throwing a customer not found exception, customer not exist. Now we can handle this exception by using a try catch block, as we have already discussed in the previous video. So if we use a try catch block, so we can handle this exception, customer not found exception, and we can just say exception caught is e. Either we can write this object, or we can just say e dot get message. So we'll just get a message. Now if we run this, you can see exception caught is customer not exist. You can just mention e, which will give you exceptions dot customer not found exception. So this is how we handle the exception which is thrown by the throw keyword. Now we will discuss about throws keyword. Now this method throws the customer not found exception. So we can here mention throws customer not found exception. So if you have multiple blocks of code which is throwing such exceptions, then you can mention all those exceptions here in the method signature. But unchecked exceptions, since it is a unchecked exception, the compiler doesn't forces you to handle it. Okay, it is optional for you. So even if you if you comment out this block and we just right here, so there is no error. Okay, this code is perfectly fine. But suppose there is some type of checked exception that this particular block can throw. So a checked exception is like IO exception. We will discuss about the IO operations and IO exception later. Okay, but for now you can consider that this IO exception is a checked exception. If we throw this exception, see, there is a red squiggly line. It says unhandled exception, add exception to the method signature. So what this means that here I said using throws keyword, we can declare both checked and unchecked exceptions. However, the throws keyword can be used to propagate checked exceptions only. So here we can only propagate checked exceptions. So unchecked exception don't matter. But for checked exception, either we have to handle it, or we have to add a method signature. Method signature means in the main method signature, we also have to write IO exception. Now the error is gone. We can run our code. But it is better that since after main method, there is no other method that is calling the main method. So we should ideally handle this exception. Let's uncomment these lines, and we can use IO exception here. Now you can see that we have perfectly handled the checked exception and no error is gone. And if we try to run it again, our code perfectly works as expected. Right? So I hope you have got an idea of how this throw and throws keyword is working. Throws keyword is used with the method signature, and it is used to specify all the checked and unchecked exceptions which a method can potentially throw. If it specifies any checked exception, then we have to definitely handle that. There is no option with us. But if it only mention the unchecked exception, it is up to us how to work with it. Okay, whether we want to handle it or how we want to handle it, it is up to us. Whereas in the throw keyword, it is used inside the method or inside the block of code, and this exception is mostly we throw a runtime exception. For any runtime exception that we are going to throw, we can either create a custom exception, or we can throw a already defined unchecked exceptions like array index out of bound exception or arithmetic exception. All these are the runtime exceptions or unchecked exceptions that we can throw. And this is the syntax. This is the way we create custom exceptions. So I hope you have got the idea of custom exception and difference between throw and throws keyword. So that's all completely for the exception handling in Java. You can learn more if you want to in the documentation. So if you search for Java exception handling and scroll down below, you'll see these are the documentation which talks in more detail also. So you can go into it, all these topics. But yes, the exception handling in Java, which is required for us to know what you actually need to know, we have covered in the previous video and this video. It covers all the fundamental concept and all the important concepts of the exception handling in Java. So you should all the exception handling concept in Java. So you should practice it out and create your own program, create your own classes, create your own exceptions, and use throws keyword. Finally, try with the resources so you can get familiar with the exception handling and get familiar with the syntax. So that's all for this video. If you like the video, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new here. I'll see you in the next one. Till then, bye bye.